You are live.
Good evening, everyone. I am India Oaks, Chair of the Annapolis Education Commission, and I'm calling our March 2022 meeting to order. Okay, let's start by doing roll call so we can confirm we have a quorum of commission members. Ward 1 is vacant, so moving to Ward 2, Jamie Weaver.
Here.
Ward 3, Enid Collison-Lee.
Here.
Ward 4, Kayla Golder. Ward 5 is myself, India Oaks, so on to Ward 6, Corey McCall. Ward 7, Laura Booth.
Present.
Ward 8, Jessica Packler.
Present.
At-large member, Odessa Ellis.
Present.
At-large member, Ken Starks. At-large member, Janet Norman.
Present.
At-large member, Grace Matthews.
You know, I do want to say that Grace Matthews' husband passed, and the funeral was today. I think Enid went by Zoom to the funeral, but her husband passed away. Grace Matthews.
Oh no, thank you for letting us know, Odessa. I hadn't heard.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could
Yeah.
maybe send a card or something. I don't know the procedure for doing that, but
Definitely. Alderperson, Sheila Finlayson. And our non-voting member, Pam Bukowski.
Here.
Great, we have a quorum, and a huge thank you and welcome to Jamie and Corey for finally being official commission members.
It looks like Mr. Starks came in.
Yes, present.
Hi. Good to see you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Ken. Great to see you. Next up is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second now that I found my unmute button.
Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Great, agenda is approved. Moving to February minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Okay, minutes approved. Next up is public testimony. Betsy.
Yes. Hi. Good evening, commissioners, and thank you for having me. My name is Betsy McKeown. Some of you may know me because I am a City of Annapolis employee and project manager and engineer. But I am also a struggling single solo mom of 2 children who attend Georgetown East. And I'm currently wanting to speak about the lack of before and after care at our school. And specifically, I'm very concerned about the change in hours and how that not only impacts me and my family, but other families around the, especially Annapolis cluster. Just as a background, I've applied for an out of area transfer request through the Board of Ed. Twice I've been denied based on this aftercare issue. We all know that elementary schools are changing to 8 a.m. to 2:25. I specifically would request from the commission that we ask Annapolis Rec and Parks to provide aftercare to all Annapolis families. The needs will be drastically changing next year. Elementary school kids will have not much to do at 2:25 until their parents are home from work. And a lot of families do not have the luxury to get off of work at 2:25. We also need to make sure that elementary school kids that are traditionally picked up by older siblings are taken care of, because those older siblings will be in school at the dismissal time. Let's see. So Annapolis or Georgetown East currently dismisses at 3:50. So that's an hour and 25 minutes that we all need to figure out what we're going to do with our children. I am getting up to speed on what the community school programs are, but I want to say that there's a great resource there. And I feel like all we need to do is connect Rec and Parks with the community school program, and we can make this happen. Secondly, I would ask the commission to recommend that Rec and Parks coordinates directly with the Annapolis Elementary School administration and staff to ensure that the successful implementation of equitable aftercare programs happens. Thank you for consideration of my requests, and I look forward to hearing about potential solutions.
Thank you, Betsy, and great transition to our discussion on after-school and youth programs. I would like to welcome the Director of Annapolis's Recreation and Parks, Archie Trader. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Trader. And do you have anything to open with before I open the floor to questions from our commission?
You're still on mute, Mr. Trader.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. And that is a very serious situation. Recreation and Parks does not take it lightly. We had 4, I think, requests for aftercare from Georgetown East. It's not cost effective for us to implement a program with only 4 requests for before and after care. And we do hope that that increases next school year. Once it does, the Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department will undoubtedly fulfill that gap. There is no question about it. In fact, we have already made a request for an increase in funding for that particular child care line item of the operational budget of our department. So we understand that the school hours will be extended. However, if you can encourage or the administration, we'll talk to the administration as we have in the past, in trying to get families to come forth and register for our programs. Once they do, we will fulfill that gap. There's no question about it. Thank you.
Jess.
Hi, so I wanted to thank you, Mr. Trader, for joining us tonight. I'm sure everybody is aware of Mr. Trader and all he has done for the city of Annapolis with the Stanton Center and Parks and Recs. And so I am grateful that you're able to be here tonight because I really do feel that exactly what Ms. McCune said is that, there really does need to be a better relationship between Annapolis Recs and Parks and the city schools and ACPS, or however this needs to be done, which actually is one of the questions that I had. What type of communication is there between your department and the school system, the county rec department, the HACA rec centers, and the offices of community engagement, all of the different areas that can and do offer before and after school programs? What kind of ongoing communication do you have with them?
Well, we have an ongoing partnership with HACA. In fact, we just had 2 meetings last week regarding after-school care with HACA. I don't have to tell you about the funding issues that they're going through. So we're trying to fill those gaps there with those children. We individually communicate with each school to find out what their issues are, what their needs are. In fact, we have just communicated with a Miss Pugh from the Board of Education to try to create aftercare programs at schools that do not have before and after care for the parents, recreational leisure activities. That's one communication that we have, but for the most part, we communicate with each individual school principals to understand their needs and wants and issues that they have.
Okay, I know that that previously, I know that we've had the same issue at Eastport as at Georgetown East, where where there haven't been enough people registered, but I also know that the registration process in the past has really limited the amount of families that have registered. So there are families who are in need of the after school care, but the fact that they have to go to the rec department to register their children, they can't register through the school. Like, for example, at Rolling Knolls, if you need aftercare, Rolling Knolls' aftercare is offered by the Y. And if you need aftercare at Rolling Knolls, you can register through the school's main office rather than having to go to the Y up in, Severna Park or Arnold and do that. And I know that for many families at Eastport, and I'm sure it's not different at other places, the fact that the registration process, you have to go to the rec department during work hours, which for a lot of our families who are limited in transportation access and also work during the day and can't take that time off to go, that has been a big issue, as well as the lack of knowledge about the various funding opportunities that are available for families, the various grants that are available for families, and that type of thing. So I'm wondering, is there anything ongoing right now within the Recs and Parks Department to change that registration process? Because, we've gone through this at Eastport numerous times, with the registration. I think you start in the spring, and then if it isn't full, if we don't have enough people by, say, June, then we aren't allowed to have the after school program. But for many of our families, they don't know their aftercare needs until July or even August, which is how at Eastport, up until 5 years ago, that's when we used to register, was in August. We would register on the first day of school, and we would always have an after school program. And then when we changed to April, we lost that after school program. So I just want to make sure that there not being a need is actually true, and it's not because of the difficulties of registering and funding for these programs. So I'm wondering sort of what is going to happen to, for next year, and, what are the deadlines? How is the registration process happening? What is what is changing to make this more accessible for our families?
Well, we can work to extend that, those deadline dates for registration, and we can go beyond June. We want to do everything that we can to give parents an opportunity to register for our programs, specifically childcare. And also, we're working with MIT to allow people to register online. And I know that with certain populations who live on cyberspace deserts may have a problem registering online. So we have to find out a way to reach those populations that have difficulties registering. But we are willing to extend the deadline, and we're working with MIT to allow people to register online. Now, there are rec centers I know at certain communities such as Eastport community, the Robinwood community, and in fact, Georgetown East, they have communities, they have computers there also. And so that many of those residents who don't have online services in their homes could go to these community centers and register online. But I think what has to happen, and what will happen, is that we have to create an open forum at the schools prior to school opening, so that we can actually talk to the parents and get their firsthand concerns on how they can register. And we need to hear from the masses of the parents, and we have to have an open forum. And I employed this committee here to help us do that, so that we can sit down in an open forum and we can talk and see how we can get this thing done.
Well, I know that a lot of us are here to do that. I have a billion questions, but I know other people have their hands up, so I'm going to let the other ones answer. But that's what we're here for, Archie, and that's why we wanted you to come here, because we want to work with you on this. This is a huge issue for our cluster, and for me particularly as an elementary and middle school and high school mom. So I'm here to help.
And I want to say one more thing, is that we do take vouchers. We do take vouchers. And so we accept vouchers, and we encourage those families who have vouchers to use those vouchers, for this particular service.
Archie,
Ken
I have a
starts, and
question.
then
Hold on,
Jenny
hold
Norman.
I'm sorry. Art, I want to speak on Archie. I want to say thank you for coming. I want to also say thank you for having after school services. I think you, along with Boys and Girls Club and the many other after school programs, are necessary. It takes, they say it takes a village. It takes a village of different after school programs as well.
Yes.
I would say the concern that the biggest obstacle that's there is transportation. I'll be honest, right now, we're talking about the elementary schools. We started through Maryland Hall with Hood to Good, my organization. We literally just started at Tyler Heights in the morning, dealing with families of the kids, of the families of the ones they drop off at school with the ones who don't go to school yet. We sit and have a morning, a preschool piece with them, little entertainment, a little art for an hour. It was like 25 kids. And we have our high school kids along with Maryland Hall resident artists running that program, so you can interact. And now you have high school kids. It does to me, it does a double piece where you have now high school kids who are accountable, doing something, now finding value in their self, right? And then having a voice, because they have to create the activities and everything. And then we just hooked up and partnered with Eastport Elementary, and I'll go ahead and I'll release it. I didn't want to tricky out here in the city, but I'll release it. Our goal is we're starting with Eastport, and it's like, I believe it's like 7 community schools in the city in elementary. Yes. And our goal is to target every one of them and have our kids, we're going to do it's a triple hit. We're going to go in and have a step team in all of them. We're starting with Eastport and finishing this year to show what could be done. And then we'll move through the summer and have a summer program with it. And then we'll move into the fall with bringing on every school and having them jump on board. So that at the end of the year, you have 3rd through 5th graders be able to do this thing. Along with that, we have after school programs and relationships, and we're building partnerships with the after school, with community schools, just having after school programs where we have other high school kids who are not teaching STEP. They're doing leading programs. They're telling what the resident artists, what should be taught by talking with the kids, having discussions with the little kids. What do you want to do? And coming up with creative things, and then going back and then having that work out, and then actually running the program, you know, with an adult being there to make sure everything goes right. And it's a great partnership, and we're moving into doing it Saturdays where we bring the entire family into the community, where we meet with everyone. And I truly believe that right now that's vital with the younger kids. I think like you could hear it in you could hear it in her tone and her passion. It's real. Yes, we have a million questions, and she summed it up. I have a kid at every level, and they're shooting out here, and it's going on. It's real out here. And then we hearing, well, if you do this and if you do that, you can get here. I think it got to come a point where it's just forget what you have to do. We have to come to you. At this point, we have to come to you. And that's where we are. And Archie, I'm not here with a million questions. I'm here with Olive Branch saying, one thing you have, and I know that you have, is you have transportation, right? You have vehicles and you have means to get to places. And I would love to partner with you to be able to bring those kids to places. Well, I'll put it like this. I don't care about where they're signed up and who gets the numbers. That's not important to me. The biggest piece is that they get not just safety. We got to move past safety. Safety lasts for every time they're safe. We have to teach them growth. How do you change this? How do you change generational stuck? I'm from that community, right? But I'm from an older generation where my grandparents lived down south because that's where we came from. We came from the South through slavery. Then my grandparents were able to move a little north. They were able to move to North Carolina, Virginia, whatever. And we had to travel to our grandparents' home. Now they live in the same neighborhood, and that's too close. That means there's no growth through generations. If you're living in great success, then it's okay to live near each other. But if you're living in housing projects, that's not the goal. No one wants that, right? So how do we help them? How do we help a people who don't want this? And we say we need more police. Yes, we do need more policing because we need to stop this. We also need community centers like you, Archie, the Boys and Girls Club to, I promise y'all, if y'all sacrifice in the beginning and say, hey, we're going to cut costs, we're going to do all of these things, and you don't need anything, we just going to come get you, we're going to make it happen. If y'all do that, you'll be surprised of the awesome grants that come out of nowhere and the sponsorships, because people want to help. We just don't have, everyone don't have the means, but it's a lot of resources and it's a lot of money. But what it isn't, it's not a lot of organizations like you guys that can really make a huge impact. So that's be my piece is, how can I help you? I see how y'all can help, and I can see how y'all can get more people in, but also how can you get to them? How can you bring things to them, right? How can we bring that same vibe to them in that school? The schools are with it. The community schools, they have budgets to do it. Everyone has something to do it. We have no longer can sit and say, hey, just come on down and sign up. We have to go to them. And I'm done, but yeah, I'm done.
Okay, you've covered a lot of ground, but I'm going to focus on the transportation and I'm going to focus on the outreach. But I do want to say this. I'm a graduate of Eastport Elementary School. So I put my heart into these programs. I put my heart into the department. And I put my heart into the community and particularly the children. We have transportation. I've just written a $150,000 grant, now $150,000 proposal to the mayor's administration, and an additional $75,000 for a anti-violence campaign. They are going to give us the money. And a part of the $150,000 original proposal is a 15 passenger van. As you know, we have 2 buses. Let me give you an analogy that took place last summer. I get a call from Councilman Juwan Gay. He said the children in Bay Ridge Gardens, they don't have anything to do in the summertime. Can they come to your pool? Can they come to your fields, baseball fields? We turned that around in 3 days, literally, and had those children in the pool, on our fields, and free of charge. And we're willing to replicate that in every area that needs it. So we have transportation. We're willing to go out there and pick up children, and we're really willing to have programs on site as well as coming to us. So that's a part of the proposal, the outreach recreational programming proposal that we are going to be funded for. So transportation is not a big problem. What I need is people like you and other people to come to my office and make this thing happen. I have to hear it. I have to have a proposal. I have to hear what you're asking for. And then we can plan it. We can strategically make it happen. That's not a problem. But I need you to come to me and other people to come to me so that we can strategically plan it out and make it happen, just as Juwan Gay's request, and it turned around in 3 days. I don't have a problem with that.
Janet, and then Enid, and then Laura.
Okay. Thank you, Director Trader and Betsy, for coming here to testify. Betsy, I am one of the people who would not have my current job that supports me and my family without the childcare provided that I was able to pay for at Hillsmere Elementary. That would have tanked my career had I not had access to. But my experience, my kids have just graduated from Annapolis High and are in college. My experience was, luckily I have a bureaucratic background that knows how to ferret out forms and find out about the April deadline for the following September back then. So I would ask as a commissioner that we definitely improve the outreach and knowledge about the program. Build that knowledge so that people can decide if, I'm sure a lot of people need it. And maybe if they look at the price sticker, like I, as a professional, had to pay this very significant extra cost, which was worth it, but it is a sticker shock to many. So one, I have no idea what you're referring to when you say we have vouchers. So if you can be specific.
Well, I can tell you that no, we don't have vouchers.
Who are the vouchers coming from?
In public housing that get, well, not only public housing, but subsidized housing as well. And even private rental units that have vouchers from the state that can use those vouchers to pay for after school and before care programs. Yes.
Okay. A friend of mine has used those at Hillsmere Elementary recently. So they're not, they take a while to get, they're a little challenging. You have certain documentation. But if we can advertise that availability and that process to get them, might open it up to more. Definitely reaching out with eliminating the process barrier and chicken and egg rolling along, that if you make it a viable option for more will sign up. So doing our part and the city's part to do a better job communicating to families. But I agree with Betsy that, we're not going to get investment in all of our city schools unless you have childcare there. We've had a number of professionals come through the through Annapolis Education Commission over the years saying, I can't keep my kid in Tyler Heights or Georgetown East because they have no childcare, like, you know, Naval Academy professors, other people, other military that move through.
You cut
Continue
off,
to get investment.
cut off for a second, so I didn't hear
Okay,
the statement.
sorry, bad internet. So the point was that it's a entwined spiral downward if we do not have childcare at every school, because then you get people avoiding those schools. You get people who've heard from their friends that they don't have childcare, even if that was 3 years ago. So you have to continue to reach out with the current status. Here's the current procedures. Here's the current status. This is what we intend to have childcare at every school. And if you even have to like combine two schools that Georgetown East and Tyler Heights have one together to start off with, whatever, we need to have options and we need them communicated early. And the affordability of it communicated through many ways to build that capacity. We can't expect parents to come knocking down the doors of something they don't know how they can pay for and they don't know that it is available. So I encourage that outreach component that we need to work on.
Okay, great. And that's a great suggestion. And what I will do tomorrow, I will consult my recreation program division chief to facilitate meetings before school is over at each school. And we will give a presentation, and I will be there myself.
That would be great.
To give an understanding of our overall before and after care costs, what we offer, you know, how to register and so on and so forth. We're going to make that happen before school ends this year, and we're gonna come to each school. And I think Tyler Heights, I guess all the schools are spread out enough geographically where we can just have to do one school at a time.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And I think that's the better way to do it anyway, because we can address those particular communities.
Yep. I think
that's what I'll do.
Thank you.
I will contact India, and India, I will solicit your help in getting the commission involved in each one of these schools, but I'm going to start with the school administration, the principals, to schedule these open forums. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Again, thank you, Archie, for coming. And I think that's a great idea. I was going to say, you know, whatever you need from us, I'm sure that we'll be willing to help. Each of us is in an area that has, and we could always just help out with the school in our area. So that would be just fine. I heard you talk about earlier being cost effective. Well, we know that's a necessity. You know, you have to be able to budget in all of the programs. Some of our schools have, you know, 800 kids. Some of our other elementary schools are smaller. Can you tell me how you determine, of course, if, you know, I know it depends upon the number of parents that sign up. What is like an average number of after school students in a school? Because she kind of took my Aunt Janet. I was going to say the same thing. Maybe we could do some combinations with some schools, you know, that are close together. And whereas these parents would, you know, say, oh, I'll pick your kid up, maybe instead they could actually be in a program together. So do you have like an average number of kids that are necessary for you to be able to afford a program at a school?
We would do in at least about 7 children.
7?
Yes. We will do about 7 children. If we can get at least 7 children, we can have a program.
Great.
I think there was a current, I think Annapolis Elementary School currently have 7 or 8 children.
Laura,
Thank you. And it's funny, I actually just got some information from Bob Mosier, who is watching. Hi, Bob. And I was going to say, which is saying exactly what I was going to say, which is that the school system can definitely help publicize any information to the families in each school. They have a Connect Ed system where they send out phone calls, emails, text messages to all the families in a specific school to let them know, hey, aftercare is available. You know, here's where to go for more information. So I think the most important piece is getting information into the hands of our parents, specifically the information about vouchers for families who may think, oh, well, that's expensive, I can't afford it. The question I had about funding was, I know there's federal latchkey funding. Is that what we're talking about here that's coming through for the vouchers, or is that, I don't quite know where that money comes from or how that works. But there should be money available and I'm wishing that that Dr. Tobin was here, because I think that may be available at the county level. I mean, most of, the school funding goes to the county and then the county doles it out. I believe those are the funds that are used in programs in the county outside of the city. So we need to be making sure that we're dipping into the same funding, if whatever's coming from, from the federal government or the state government to our county schools, we need to make sure that whatever programs we're running here have access to the same funding that the students at the schools around the county are getting. So that may be maybe a different pot of money than what the city has already allotted. So that's definitely something that I think some more maybe a roundtable discussions with all the various entities at the table would be really, really helpful. But back to communicating to families, it's also, I know you said you only had like 4 families that were interested. It's hard for families, if they don't know that the program is there, there's no way for them to express interest in that program. There's no way to collect information. Hey, maybe there are 7 families right now at Georgetown East. I mean, we have Betsy, so there may be more. There may be 7 families there, but since there isn't a program, they may have said, hey, is there an aftercare program? And been told, no, there isn't. So there's no way to know what the interest level is. So I think one of the things that we might want to think about doing is either putting out a parent survey, not necessarily a commitment to aftercare for next year, because we know that we have to go through the funding and whatnot as well. But just, hey, is there interest? Are you interested in these programs? And that's something that we could definitely here at the commission could help. We could put together a survey. AACPS could help send it out to all the families, and we could collect information that would help you to decide, how big these programs should be, or what the interest level is. And again, thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you. They're all great points, and we have the capability of sending out surveys ourselves, the Recreation Department. The funding source, or the sources that people can take advantage of, I think whoever you were talking about, somebody from the county that can educate people about how to get those vouchers, how to get that type of funding for before and after care. I think we need that person at that meeting. We do not have that person per se. We don't have that knowledge, that expertise, if you will, in that particular area. If we could have someone join us that could disseminate that type of information, that would be great as well. And Bob, hello to you, and we have a great long-term relationship. And I'll be consulting Mr. Mosier as well on this communication endeavor, no doubt.
One last thought. I know that the school system is doing a series of information sessions for the new start times, just to let families know, hey, this is coming and this is how it's going to work. I think if they do sessions here within the cluster, getting you and your team on board with that so that you can be there when parents are showing up saying, hey, school's getting out, an hour and a half earlier, what am I going to do? You can be there and say, yes, and we're going to have aftercare at your school, and here's some more information about it, so that it's all in one place. And before parents, really freak out, they know that there's a solution at hand and ready to go. I think would help a lot with just making that whole I think the transition is going to be rough for some of our families. This is a pretty big shift. So having you there on site to answer those questions before they've even had a chance to really panic about it, I think would really help.
Yes, we would like to be a part of that. We would like to be invited in any capacity. We would like to cooperate with that.
Great. Thanks.
Before I go back to Jess, do you reach out to Head Start to publicize for incoming families?
Is that a question for me, India? We don't have a real communication with Head Start. That's something that we have to start, but we don't really communicate with Head Start.
Okay. Jess,
Yep.
If I can continue, there is one Head Start program in Annapolis Gardens. That's the only one that I am aware of.
Okay, so I had a couple things. One, I'm super excited, Kenny, to hear about the Steppers program. I don't know, I'm an event planner in part of my life, and we had one of the DC Steppers program open the National Cherry Blossom Festival's opening ceremonies this weekend, and it was so fun. And I was like, I want to see. Anyway, I'm really excited about that. But to that point, those type of activities are fantastic and they are awesome, but they are not a guaranteed every day, 5 days a week, as many days of the year, 180 days of the school year program that the schools need, right? So that's what we have to make sure that we're focusing on, because I know that community schools are also offering a lot of fantastic club programs. But the thing that we need to focus on first is making sure that there's childcare every day that the kids are in school, regardless. And I know you guys do great programs at the rec center, Archie, on when there's no school. So I look forward to, expanding the in-school childcare. And the other, the corollary to that, the more kids that are in the school for childcare, the more kids that are available to participate in things like the STEP program and anything else, right? And it's going to be a sort of back and forth. I want to make one suggestion. It's something that I've heard from a lot of our families. A lot of our families don't have 5 days a week jobs. So they can't qualify for the vouchers for the full rec program, childcare program, because they may only need it because maybe they work Saturday and Sunday when childcare isn't offered, and then they work Tuesday and Wednesday, right? If they work in the restaurant business, or if they, whatever it is, if they're working. So I'd like to make sure, Archie, that on your, when you're looking at this whole thing, that you explore what the possibilities are, because right now you're in for 5 days a week for the month, or you're not in at all, or you have to pay for those days. And for a lot of families, that is outside the realm of what they can afford to do, right? They can only afford to pay for childcare when they're actually working. And so I think, we need to think about that when we're doing this. Is there a possibility for a 3-day a week or a 5-day a week? I'm not saying that everybody should be, have 1 days and 2 days. That would be too hard to, but maybe you have a 3-day a week and a 5-day a week program that people can buy into or get vouchers for. So I wanted to put that out there first. I actually had another question.
Jessica, can I interject on that point?
Yeah.
It's an excellent point. It's a timely suggestion. The budget is just coming up. I just submitted a fee schedule, and I can go back and inject that particular idea. It's up to the city council, of course,
right?
So that we can have those type of fees applied to non 5 days a week registrations. It's an excellent point. I mean, if you just need it for 2 or 3 days, let's charge you for 2 or 3 days, and we have to come up with those fees.
That's great.
That's appropriate and reasonable, but that's a good point. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that we can look into that. I had a question. Are non-ACPS families allowed to participate in the childcare program? Like if you live in Eastport and you need childcare for your child and they go to St. Mary's, can they come to Eastport Elementary and go to the childcare, the after school program?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I know that there's some Anne Arundel County public school implications to that.
Okay,
right. They would have to be. Right. So I don't have an answer for that. I never had that question posed, but I do know that the school system would have to weigh in on that.
Okay. And then the other thing I just wanted to, so I have two things. One is I just want to put out there that if it gets to the point, you know, where say it is only 4 people at Georgetown East and you just can't finance, I would like to recommend then that a program be offered at the rec center. And since rec department has transportation and all of our schools are ending at the same time, right? So so you can,
Mhm.
you know, so then there's a bus that goes, say we only get 4 people at Georgetown East for this first year and 3 people at Eastport and 5 people at Tyler Heights, but there's a bus from the rec department that can go and pick up each one of those groups of children, take them to the rec department, and then the parents can pick them up there, right? What I think the problem in the past was, it was like, well, if there's not enough at your school, then you don't get daycare, you don't get childcare. And what we need is there's not enough at your school. So here's the alternative for you and your family, because there has to be an alternative, right? Whether it's you take them to Annapolis Elementary or you put them all at the rec center, you know, because I know you have the childcare room downstairs that doesn't get used very often. So maybe that's it. I mean, my kids have been through classes in all of the different rooms down there. So, so that was, I just wanted to throw that suggestion out there. And then I wanted to talk about middle school, right? Because we've talked a lot about the elementary schools, but at the middle school level, there's a gap, right? So I wanted to ask about the REACH program and what it is currently and what you project it to look like next year. And then based on those answers, I may have a couple other questions about, because I really do think, you know, one of the great things about this time change is that the middle school kids are going to be going in later, but that may mean that they need before care. And, you know, what can the city do to provide that at Annapolis and at Bates? Because now the middle schools aren't starting until, what is it? I have it right here. They're not starting in the morning until 9:15, which, you know, for some parents, and, you know, 6th graders are only 11. So, you know, there may be parents who are not comfortable with leaving their children home until 9:15. But then, you know, after school, you know, even though they end later, they still end at 3:55, which is before, if you work before parents are usually home from work. So what can we do to make sure that we're not just sort of sending our kids home on the bus and not giving them things to do? So that was my middle school question.
Well, you named it. You named the REACH program at the Pip Moyer Recreation Center. And we provide transportation for that particular program. We go to the Annapolis Middle School as well as the Bates Middle School, and we pick up these children. So based on what you're saying, I see that program increasing. And also I see our transportation component of these programs increasing as well. So the aftercare for middle schoolers is already happening, and we have to augment it by, once again, reaching out and communicating to the parents. And I do. Excuse me for 1 second, please.
While he's there, I want to say, just to your point, for after school, yes, we do those pop-ups, right? But we also, with Maryland Hall in the county, Anne Arundel County Public Schools, we have a grant, and we have a 6-week summer camp, and they're standalones. It's an elementary camp 1 week, and I'll do this better when we get off. I'll send you that information, and that you'll have it, and I'll send it to the group email, and you guys will have it. And what we do is through Maryland Hall, we literally do a after-school program right now for middle school kids. We have Bates School kids coming over. We have like 10 of them that come over. They started Tuesday and Thursdays, and now because of the demand, we actually go Monday through Thursday. And it's for those kids, and it's art. And we literally, the beauty of it is, yes, we have a curriculum of what we're doing. However, we add a twist of what you're good at. So they'll be doing 6 different things. because we focus on their talent and their skill set, give them a project to do that they come up with the teacher, and it's building them to have the confidence. So we have that middle school component, and it's opening the Bates, and it's open up to Annapolis Middle. And the catch is, the key word is transportation. And that's the piece, like those kids, not only like we can get them there, but then we have to get them home also. And that's the caveat that's really hurting. In the summer camp piece, it's easier, and that's easy. Archie, I got you in 1 second. But that's the thing is, how do we connect with the city and organizations like Archie, that we collaborate on transportation, that it could be provided, that I believe, I mean, because our whole summer camp isn't one thing. It's like every piece is blocked off in sessions. You got an art program, then you move to a dance piece or whatever, then you move to a photography. You shift because you have to find out your talent, and you shift around, and everything is based on that. The openness, so the choices, so that everyone gets a piece. So now we'd love to be, okay, we can even have some physical activity. We could go to Parks and Recs and do some things there. Those are the beauties of it, but it has to start with the transportation. And I think that's what it is. We do have those opportunities, and I'll provide that. But to the question, it has to be transportation on every level, getting them there and getting them home. And I think that's the killer for organizations that don't have transportation.
Well, that's, and forgive me, that was the mayor. I had to answer that real quick. But nevertheless, we have to have a sit down. This particular forum is excellent to get your ideas out, and for me to get an understanding of your general needs. But to make things happen, to take action, you've got to come and sit down with me and my leadership, so that we can strategically plan these things, and we can tell you what we can do and what we can't do. But one thing I can say for sure, we can do something, and we will do something. And that's the key. You gotta come to me, and we can sit down with my leadership, and we can get these things done. Now, going back to the REACH program, Jessica's question and inquiry about middle school children, we currently have about 17 children in that program. I mean, it's a wonderful program. Ron Shea is a wonderful coordinator, and she's done things that are simply amazing. Fundamentally, I just want to, educate you, is that fundamentally it's an after-school homework club type of program. Academics, getting their homework done is first and foremost before they branch off into enrichment types of programs and enrichment types of activities. It is the education that is fundamental to that program. Just like the Get Smart Club at the Stanton Center is the fundamental basic aspect of that program is their homework and some core subject tutoring before they get into the recreation and leisure, art, and other extracurricular activities. I also want to bring to your attention, I think that many of you remember this, during COVID, that we had school at the Pitt Moyer Center, free of charge. We had 36 students come there. Of course, everyone didn't need us. However, we had 36 children come with their Chromebooks. We had all the safety measures in place, and we held that program for a whole school year. So we're here. I mean, we're going to extend ourselves as much as we can and as best as we can. Yes.
I just wanted to add one more like structural tidbit to keep in mind, perhaps as you're structuring the unveiling of the coming year's program. If we can keep in mind economic privilege. So when I had to sign up for aftercare, knowing that each one of your schools has a different capacity level based on, the size of their gymnasium or cafetorium or wherever they were holding the aftercare. And there were limited slots. So I had a car and I could get there at 7 a.m. when the day that aftercare opened on April 1st and get my deposit check in. And I know other people with transportation wouldn't be able to do that as quickly. So maybe if we can think about opening the pool of application, you put your deposit with your application, but not being on a first come, first served basis that generally, benefits those who are bureaucratically in the know or have the job flexibility or the resources to do that, that you then say, okay, we've got these, 35 applications, we've got these 50 applications and there's X number of slots. We're gonna pick randomly from a lottery or something, just something that equalizes the playing field of applying for the programs. And if you can keep that in mind, that would be awesome. Thank you. And kind of once you know what space you're going to hold it in, letting parents know, okay, the Hillsmere cafeteria can hold X number of children in its aftercare program as a maximum. The such and such school can hold X number as a maximum. Just so they have a sense of how many we can fit.
Good
Thank
point. Good point.
Janet, maybe that speaks to the program at the rec center. Maybe no matter what, you have a program at the rec center. So families who either don't send their kids to Annapolis or Anne Arundel County Public Schools, or families who don't get into their local program can then have their children go to that, the overflow. So, because that might actually work better for somebody, right? So maybe somebody's like, no, I would prefer to pick my children up, or maybe that's the late program. Maybe the elementary school program goes until 5, but then there's a late program at the rec center since the rec center is open, right? Because there are families that need it. I mean, when my husband worked in DC, he didn't get home until 7 o'clock every day, right? He needed we would need daycare. If we were both working in DC, we would need daycare until 7 o'clock. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, it's good to think of, many mutations and let's get all the information and sort it out and see how many different permutations we can offer to meet people's complex needs.
Okay.
And did you have any other questions?
I just had a question about the REACH program. Is that currently runs, is that running this year and it's running 5 days a week for children?
Yes.
Okay. And there's reliable transportation from the 2 middle schools to the rec center for that program?
However, for this particular program, the parents do come and pick their children up from the Pitt Moyer Center.
Right, but they can get transportation from the schools. I know at the beginning of the year at Bates, there were some issues with the bus coming from picking up at Bates and getting to the rec center, and that is now currently running 5 days a week so that the kids can get to that program.
Yeah, we pick them up in a van.
Yeah, but that is running every day. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
van. Ron Shea herself, the coordinator of the program, she picks up the children.
Great. Okay.
Is there space for additional children? Is that something that can be communicated to Bates and Annapolis Middle School, that is there space for more children in that program, or is that?
Absolutely. At the Stanton Center, we have 28 children every day, 5 days a week. So we definitely have room for more children at the Pitt Moyer Center. You see, what you have to understand in before and after care, before after school programs, you got to understand that these children, they get hooked on the recreation and leisure side of this program or other activities. Now, in the REACH situation, they are in partnership with an organization called Community. It's eluding me right now. What's the name of that program? I think it's Saving Communities.
Creating communities.
Creating communities, right? I'm sorry. There's a strong partnership. They put on plays, they put on performances, and they do a lot of things as a group at the REACH program. So we have a lot more room for others. I would love to see that that population at REACH at the Pitt Moyer Center go up to 25, 28, maybe 30 students. And then I would employ some of you to even come there and look at how we have. So when you address middle schoolers, it's different from elementary schools. You see, high schoolers and middle schoolers, they're caught between adulthood and childhood. And you have to create an atmosphere for them that's going to allow them a certain amount of autonomy. So we have a lounge type setup at the Pitt Moyer Center. You know, we have pool table, we have different games, we have TVs on the walls, we have computers, we have that old fashioned bean bags, those type of things where they could just go in and lounge and communicate and socialize with each other.
I definitely see a greater need for communication from the school system about these things. I have a daughter at Bates. I didn't hear about REACH until halfway through the school year. She's in 6th grade. I wasn't even aware that it was available or you know, that it, because there's nothing that comes from the school system or, you know, comes to parents. So I think we need to get families involved at, like, we're having, you know, we have orientation nights and they send out a ton of information to incoming 6th grade parents. So we need to be communicating here at the city, you know, for within our cluster, we need to be communicating city programs to our families as well. So that's something that I think we need to pursue with the school system so that families know, you know, just because you have a middle schooler doesn't mean there's no aftercare anymore. For example, here are some things that your kid can do after school, so they're not coming home to an empty house, or if they have a place to go, especially for like 6th graders, because 11-year-olds not that old. You know, like I wouldn't have felt comfortable with my with her being alone after school in 5th grade. Right. Just because she's in middle school doesn't necessarily mean that, I want her coming home to an empty house, especially as Jeff said, if you're a parent who works like in DC, that could be a lot of hours that your kids are home alone. It's one thing if you're going to be along in the next half hour, but if you're not going to be there until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, if you've got a long commute, that's a long time for kids to be unsupervised. So.
Yes, I think that's a conversation that I can have with Bob Mosier to get us into that type of communication and media that the school produces, that we can be written into the newsletters and other types of forms of communication.
Exactly. Thank you.
I just had one follow-up question on the middle school level. And it's middle school, but it's everything. I mean, it's all sides. And this, we've talked a lot, and it's already 7 o'clock. So I was wondering if you could just give us what your vision and plans are for the next year in terms of youth activity programming, because one of the conversations that we have all the time is about the lack of sports opportunities, lack of opportunity for sports involvement for kids in the city, unless you have the means to participate in one of the private programs, or, and especially as there's obviously a lot of programs which are relatively cost effective when the kids are little, but as they get older and, some kids get better, they go into travel programs, and then the regular community programs seem to disappear. And that's something that in a lot of other communities, Severna Park, Davidsonville, South River, there is opportunity for. One of my sons wanted to run track this year, and we don't have a track program in the city of Annapolis. So we're driving down to South River High School every day or 3 days a week so that he can run track down there. And obviously, that I was really involved in the skipjacks and the baseball program, but now that the city baseball league is gone, we're not doing that anymore. So I'm just wondering, what is the future of sports and leagues and youth programming from the rec department in the city of Annapolis? And what can we as an education commission, or if we're working with the rec department commission, or just as residents of the city, do to work with you on that? Because I would really like to see more sports and youth programming and activities and opportunities for our kids, not just the best sport athletes, but the kids who just want to run around a track or try to hit a baseball, a couple days a week.
Yes, I do know that in the past we had baseball associations running our baseball leagues with the city, with the Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department. So the Recreation Department itself did not run these programs. And I noticed for a fact because I was an assistant coach with LaRon Fisher with the Hacker baseball team while as a Stanton Center manager. So that whole process continued right up until I became a director. But we need to do a better job on getting those leagues started autonomously. Having the department run baseball, bringing flag football back into the fold, okay, which was an extremely popular sport for a very long time. Jessica, I'm pretty sure you realize that there's a conflict between AAU, big time sports, getting my child ready for college, scholarships, and so on and so forth, and recreation sports. Children are tending to shy away from recreation sports, and they want to go into these popular AAU well-recognized type of sports, and the recreation sports that we have. For example, one of the things that I'm going to bring back to the Pitt Moyer Center is that we have currently basketball leagues that are non-competitive and instructional, and we will continue to have those programs. But what we need to inject is competitive basketball leagues to draw a different type of player and that wants to be competitive. So we're gonna bring that back as well.
I think that's great. I mean, I've talked to a lot of parents who I agree that there definitely is there is a trend for people to want to go to the more competitive, but I can also tell you that looking at South River Youth Association, which is where we had to join for track, and some of the other ones, there are plenty of people who want to do community sports, and it might take a little bit to build it, but they want to play the rec level, right? Because if you can't play travel soccer, but you're 14 and you still want to play soccer, then, we should have that opportunity. It doesn't have to be huge, but I do think it should be through the rec department. And I personally, whatever I can do to help that, because go ahead.
One of the things that could help it right off the bat, Jessica, is that, when I was a child, you didn't have to search too far for volunteer coaches. They were all over the place. They seem to be a rare commodity now. And once we can get those volunteer community coaches involved in various sports, soccer, baseball, basketball, then we can have, I'm going to say, in-house leagues and sports in the department. It's very difficult to conduct these things in these leagues and these sports without, stakeholders in the community that's going to galvanize these children and get them involved. I'm mentioning Mr. Fisher's name again. For several years, they've had baseball teams out of Hacker. I helped coach, assistant coach for about 5 years. So that's what we need as a catalyst to get this thing started.
Yeah, when we did the skipjacks, we played Hacker, and it was great. We had, and that actually was run. Katie Owings ran that baseball league, and there were only 6 or 7 teams, and it was just through the city. But it was great, and we had a great time, and the skipjacks were definitely the Bad News Bears, but it was really fun, and the kids, and to be honest, my son only ever played on that. He never played on any of the traveling teams, and he made the JV baseball team this year, which I think is at Annapolis High. And I think that's another thing to think about too with the middle school sports and everything, is that we have the the travel teams, but we don't have anything that's feeding up to our high school. And so if we were to institute some sort of middle school sports programming that will encourage kids to get involved before and after school or whatever, whenever we do it, but it also provides a feeder program for our high school of Annapolis residents and Annapolis public school kids, which I think can only be a good thing. Go
And
A
that's
high.
You're right, and that's another initiative. I mean, there's various states that have eliminated interscholastic middle school sports, but they have managed to keep it going through volunteerism, through outside funding. Instead of renting buses, you get yourself a 15-passenger van and you go from school to school. So that's a great idea, and then maybe we can sit down and talk about that as well.
I think that's a great idea. I think we all have a lot of energy bringing, right? And I think they're great ideas. And I think, like Archie keeps alluding to, everything he says is we could sit down and have here it is a conversation. Then we could go into a point where sit down and start saying, how do these ideas be manifested, right? I grew up in PG County where you had county sports, where you had AAA, AA, A, and then you had intramural, where you had the red team play the yellow team. And I was on like one of those red team, yellow team basketballs. I was a football player, but I wasn't a basketball player. And you were able to play, like just say, you were able to play. I was able to play soccer. I was able to play baseball. I was able to play this. I was able to play that. And you just played team, whatever, A, B. It was simple as you came up with your name that year, but you were literally team A, B, C, D, or whatever you saw on the schedule. And it gave you a chance to play. And those kids, and you when you got cut from the county team, that's how those leagues were formed. All right. Well, Archie's right on that one piece where he says AAU is taking a lot of these kids away. Yes. I go a lot of places and see these kids and they're nowhere near AAU ready. So we can have a different component. I remember being at Bates for 6 years, and we had this thing called Hoops for Homework. And I coached it, and we did a rivalry game twice a year against Annapolis Middle. What I
refereed.
Yep, you refereed the games. We brought you in, and I looked at it like this. I saw those kids, and I said, and Archie said, and Archie's right. A lot of stuff he's saying is not a lot, but this is on these points he's right. Where he's saying the volunteers, they got to come, because what I did was I took that team, instead of those 2 games a year where you had to have a good GPA, we played year round. We played in the fall league. We played in the winter league. We played in the spring league. And to play on my team, I put up the money. We played in the Anne Arundel County, and it was 8th graders with 2 select 7th graders that came on that team every year. So the team rotated until we end up having like 3 teams. One, we even have a girl team, and they played in the county. And those are the things that have to happen. And that happened for 6 years. But then when it was over, next thing you know, even the rivalry between the 2 schools ended with less than a year. So
I will say Darius Stanton was at our PTSA meeting last night, and he was talking about restarting that. So I don't know if you've talked to him about that, but I am super excited about the Bates Annapolis rivalry with basketball starting up again.
That was everything. I mean, parents took off work. I mean, we had middle schools. Daru came to me and was like, look, starts. We have parents at the door, like over 40 of them trying to come watch this game. He said, what do I do? I said, sign them in, let them in. I said, I promise you, there'll be no problems. They just want to cheer their kids on. And we had kids on that team that wouldn't have been on any team that you would see anywhere else in the AU circuit. And they learned confidence, they learned camaraderie, they learned because when you were on my team, you had to come after school, you had to go to study hall. And once you have that proverbial carrot, you can introduce all these other things you need, the mentoring, the academics, the how to be, how to put on your tie, how to walk, how to, and you can teach women etiquette, how to be what you are, men etiquette, how to respect each other. You can bring those men and those women in the room and have a discussion on how a young man should talk to me as a young lady, and how a young lady should talk to a young man, and how you treat each other. But the only way you have it is when you start having something in front of them that they can love and they can do, and you can slide those things in there. But if you just have, hey, we're going to have a mentoring group, it's not going to happen. So you have to have those activities, those carrots, And at middle school, elementary is great to have after school programs, a lot of action. And at middle school, when they hit, they need something because they're at that point. I've seen so many kids at middle school, and then I was fortunate to go to the high school and saw them. And some of them I hugged and was like, what happened? And you know what they said? You're not here. I know they don't mean me personally when it's all said and done. Someone that's there in their pocket that cares about them, that's got their back and hears them, that does this. And that's what Archie is saying. We need more of those. And that's what Darius Stanton is trying to do in the school, bring those kind of men in there. And it takes sacrifice. It takes a lot. It takes everything, but it's needed. It takes us going to Archie and saying, hey, we have these opportunities. How can you help us in this regard? Right? It takes, okay, I see you doing this. How can we help you in this regard? It takes all of that. It takes us to really go beyond. And this, I'm appreciative of this length of this conversation because I don't think anything else matters if they're not safe and focused, because education is secondary if they cannot get to school. Like right now, they're moving the kids from 20, they're moving them on off of Spa Road or Riva Road, where now they have to walk. And they're in a war in these neighborhoods. And now they have to walk to school. So that's, I got calls from parents from 20. That's how I found out. And they were like, what do we do? I don't know. So that's where I'm at. I don't know, but we need all hands on deck, everybody.
Yes, and Annapolis Recreation Park is here to help.
Janet, you can ask the last question.
Okay. I wanted to just throw in a perspective from an Annapolis High sports parent. So my kids were soccer captains and tennis captains. So the thing, and I hope we can start getting more of our kids into lifetime sports where they have an opportunity to continue playing, like the summer basketball leagues that you have. Like basketball is a lifetime sport, tennis is a lifetime sport. Soccer around here in this community with, you know, men's and women's leagues is kind of more of a lifetime sport. So, and I know that you can walk on to the Annapolis High tennis team where very few people have had preparation at all. And, you know, my son taught himself from YouTube videos because we didn't really have much coaching. But the more, so if we could have like kids getting prepared at middle school to be able to participate in the Annapolis High tennis team, you know, boys and girls team, it's very social, it's very fun, kind of like the cross country team also. That if we could get more kids feeling like they're capable enough to go out for that, I think we really could build momentum in keeping more kids engaged. Likewise with the soccer programs, if we could, you know, Annapolis High has never been a powerhouse of soccer. We've had occasional flourishes, but if we can get more kids prepared and you know, fit at the middle school level, we'll be able to build a very cohesive, because they are very cohesive, diverse teams once you get to Annapolis High. And I think we just need to get the kids into those lifetime sports. So thank you for that perspective.
Thank you again for joining us, Director Trader. We had a great discussion, and we look forward to collaborating with you more.
Thank you very much, India, and I look forward to collaborating more.
Okay, moving to committee reports. I will just open the floor to all committees if anyone has any updates.
From the career and track, I will say this every single meeting in case there's someone new listening, that one of the absolute best ways to get information about job fairs, career tracks, career mentoring is the postings on the Annapolis High PTSA Facebook page by our signature program, the Change Engineering program, Ms. Hogan, Becky Hogan. So she is constantly putting up really helpful, informative things. And I would encourage every single commission member here to join that page so that you can help spread information to people within our city. And everybody watching and everybody on the city government itself, please join that page so that you're in the know of what opportunities there are for our kids that you can.
Does she
Thank
share
you.
that information out other than through Facebook for families that don't do Facebook?
Well, obviously they share it to their own signature students, the change engineering students. And I'm sure they probably give it, but they're running the program also. So I think we have to do the job of helping disperse. A lot of the teachers I've talked to, like, they don't have time to disperse to 40 different outlets as well as teach the program and run it and everything else. So I think we've got to do some of that dispersal.
Do they have a website?
Not that's like updated every day. I think they'll
I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to figure out how as both the commissioner and a freshman mom.
Mhm, mhm.
I will say that my Facebook feed is so crowded because I'm a social media manager for a company that I don't see a lot of what gets posted by various groups on Facebook, right? So
Right.
if you're like me and you have too much Facebook, or if you don't use Facebook at all,
Right.
I'm wondering how we can maybe.
But it's a place that people can go to. So yes, maybe your algorithm is not feeding it into your feed, but if you are an Annapolis High parent, you can go to that PTSA Facebook page. I mean,
Right, but there's also a lot of posts on that page every day too. So that's what I'm just trying to figure out. Maybe if there's something we can help facilitate through or maybe if we see something and if it's, whoever's on that page and sees something could share it through the Education Commission page, so it gets shared doubly.
sure. Do we have many people that pay attention to the Education Commission page?
We have a fair amount.
Okay. Sure, but I would just encourage people to go look for those because there's always really good stuff posted there.
Yeah,
I know
no, she does. I wasn't trying
Annapolis High has a whole bunch
I
of,
was just trying to figure out how to make sure it gets a wider audience. That's what I was really, because she does have great
Right.
stuff. When I
It
see
would-
it,
It would be
Yeah.
really helpful if she could post stuff on, like, if they have like, a Google site or something where she posted the stuff there and then just linked from Facebook out to that, rather than posting the information just within Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times, like, there's a nice graphic or whatever, and they're sending, here's a link. Like, if they could post it out somewhere, like if they were to do it via, like, like a WordPress or some kind of a blog where they publish it there, and then it also posted it in Facebook, because then it would be someplace where it would live resident, and you could say, and people from outside who don't have a Facebook account could go and look for it.
sure.
Well,
And I think,
Jan, let me hope. I think what Jan is saying is, here's an option, right? I think she's saying here's an option. And I don't think everything is going to be like you say, hey, I want to help with hunger. No, we may not be able to solve world hunger, but our part could put a dent in it. And that is an option to get it. Now you look at the next step, I guess you want to say, how can we disperse this information? Well, they take another route where every morning where they have their extended first period, they play their videos where all the information goes to the kids. And ironically, you'll be surprised how many kids really pay attention. So now that's information. And then it goes out they put it with not the letter, but they put it with a lot of information. They put it out on the information that Jelinus may put out with the overall stuff that goes on. So it's different ways. So I would definitely suggest, if you do see it and get it, like Jess and Laura said, share it, and that'd be many ways.
Yep.
And that's what we do. What I learned from doing showcases, and it's not, they don't do it, Jess, you definitely know, you do social media. They don't do traditional, like you have to go with this route and you have to have this, and they just blast. And if you blast and you're in that group, they share, and they sit and all day they scroll. So that information gets pumped. And for the adults, I think we're starting to do the same thing, right? And I think it will get dispersed with the right people. And By the way, I want to speak on change engineering. I think every class should go in the role of change engineering. And you heard me say that right here. It is an amazing program where they empower the kids to think opposed to telling them what it is. Kids don't speak because they're told. What's the point? So what's the point? Give them the platform and the opportunity, like change engineer with Laura Mish and
Becky Verhoeven.
Becky Verhoeven.
Amazing. I mean, I love it. I used to sit in there and watch it and was like, I used to get mad at the kids when they do kid stuff like not focusing class. I was like, are you serious? I would have excelled in class because it lets you use your thought. You know, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's a great program. They do a great job at dispersing everything out. Also, just to let people know that like almost every club or function in Annapolis High also has a Twitter account where they'll shoot out information about that particular program. So help let parents know, and they're able to post real-time updates to Twitter much quicker. So like, okay, something's canceled that night, they're putting it out to Twitter. And the kid, so let the parents know that they are places to find the information. Just ask, and another parent or school administrator will help get you to the right place. But I'm sure that the Signature Engineering program, I think, has their own Twitter. So just keep pushing it out as many directions as people can try and find it. Thanks.
Any other committee updates?
I'm wondering if the conversations that we had tonight, would they fall under the school start times committee, or should we, I think, the charter school or target program committee, I think that has sort of stalled. I'm wondering if we should have a new committee so that we can get together and, like Archie said, meet with him, and then we can make regular updates, and that way it's more time sensitive for our meetings.
With the charter school committee, I'm just waiting. It is stalled, Jess. You're correct. We're not really doing anything with that right now. Pretty much since Jeff has left, and he was saying that maybe we can find some people who are interested, but no one has come forward that I know of. But I'm hoping and I'm waiting to see who the new superintendent is going to be, and just exactly what his ideas would be or goals are. So pretty much, if you want to move on to some other type of committee, that's fine with me. But how many people have gone on the web, the Anne Arundel County Public Schools site and did a survey? I noticed that there's a survey for the superintendent. Shouldn't we be trying to push that survey?
Did that close Monday? I think it closed Monday.
Was it already closed? Or it
Yeah.
closed? Well, that was a short survey. My gosh.
And there really wasn't a lot of space, they asked some questions and they gave you some choices to pick from, but they didn't really say, hey, if there's something that's important to you that isn't on this list, share that information. And so it was, I think, somewhat limited. It was not perhaps as useful a forum for sharing information with the search committee. I don't know if that's something that if we want to consider maybe sending something to the search committee directly from the organization, from our group, and say, hey, here are some points that are, I know, Indy, I think you were a stakeholder and they talked to you.
It was a terrible survey, but I met with the search firm last week on behalf of the commission.
Great.
Okay. Well, do they plan on, meeting with the community? Is this going to be their survey? Is that all? Anybody know?
I'm going to let India field this one.
I think India's responding, so just hold on a second.
Okay.
With 11 stakeholders.
That's not much of a survey. I mean, input from the community. If they closed the survey already. My
India,
gosh.
can you do that again? Because I was talking when you.
They met with 11 stakeholders.
11
Meeting
stakeholders.
with more or just 11?
Who are the 11 stakeholders? I almost get the feeling we're going to get the same old, same old. Oh, well, it is what it is.
Besides myself, people from the NAACP connecting the dots and others.
Sound like the same old people. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I didn't find that superintendent survey to be super useful, or not a great survey, but I'm hoping that maybe I think are we having town halls or something, or is that?
Are they having town halls?
They
So was
they
the
should be because they're
CAC
supposed to
and
be
the
happening
PTAs
soon.
involved? India, were the representatives from the PTA and the seats?
So when is the deadline for the choosing of the superintendent? Anybody know that? Oh,
I think
my.
they have to
Joanna?
they have to have somebody in place by July 1st. So they may not have the permanent superintendent in place by July 1st. They may have an interim superintendent. I know the PTA, Anne Arundel County President Mallory LaFawn, she met with them as well, because she asked at the last PTA meeting for any feedback to give them. But we have to have an interim superintendent in place. We have to have somebody in place by July 1st. And that may be an interim superintendent, which is, I think, what they did before Dr. Arlotto came in as well. And that's what last year Montgomery County did. Montgomery County just replaced their superintendent, and they had an interim superintendent who they ended up hiring as their full-term superintendent. Montgomery County, Maryland, not Virginia, who just fired their superintendent last week, and it's been very confusing. So
India, did you get a chance to answer my question?
What was the question?
PTA and CAC involvement. She said other organizations, and I'm trying. I mean, was there like a representative? Were you there as the representative from the AEC, India?
Yeah.
Okay. PTA and
I think she said NAACP.
I heard that.
the Anne Arundel County PTA were part of a meeting on last Tuesday morning.
And it was individual interviews.
I know Joanna is out of the country right now, so maybe on her return, maybe we can put together some questions and we can all send them to India that we can then send to Joanna and have her answer them in the meantime before our next meeting, since time is going quickly.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll have a short list coming up anytime soon. You think so? A short list? No?
I have no idea.
Let's
I
say,
hope so, but who knows? Moving to new business. Who wants to talk about designating Annapolis Middle School as a Title I school?
I do. I'm really excited. This is me being really excited. So after all of us have heard for years about how Anne Arundel County only sends Title I funds to the elementary school level, which anyone who's been on the Education Commission, we've heard this multiple times. This is going to be the first year coming up where it will go to a middle school level, and that will be Annapolis Middle School, which I'm really excited about. My kids have all gone to a Title I elementary school, and I can say nothing but fantastic things about how Title I funds can be used to grow and to improve and to build on a school program. In the slideshow that the Title I program gave to the parents at the last principal's coffee, they likened it to a cupcake, right? So the cupcake with the icing is what Annapolis, Anne Arundel County Public Schools gives for for Annapolis Middle School. And then they had a picture of a cupcake with more icing and sprinkles, and that is what Title I will provide for Annapolis Middle School. Annapolis Middle School qualified for this because 75% of our kids qualify for free and reduced meals. They are in the planning phases right now, and it will start in the fall. But just like in the elementary school level, for this, it will be a full scale, not a targeted program for Title I funding. And the funding can be used for everything from extra resources in the classrooms, additional staff development programs, additional staff training, parent engagement programs, any number of things that I just think are going to be really great for Annapolis Middle School. And as some of the people on this call know, when I found out, I was like dancing around my house because I am really excited. And I think this is really something that Annapolis Middle School needs and is going to be really helpful. I love Annapolis Middle School. I have a seventh grader there, and I have a freshman who went there. And I just think this is going to be, that next step of really helping. It can help with after school programs. It can provide assistance to kids who really need it. We've had how many conversations on this on our meetings about, the kids who come from elementary school and just aren't quite there yet or aren't quite ready yet. This is the type of funding and programs that Title I can provide are the targeted education program, it's not a targeted program, like I said, but for the kids who really need help to get to that 6th grade level or the 7th grade level, and they're not quite there yet, even though they're in 6th grade or they're in 7th grade. These are the types of programs that Title I can offer. They can offer reading help and math help and everything else. So I am just really excited. And as we learn more, I promise I will share more. I think we're going to try to get Title I in to talk about it, hopefully in one of the upcoming months, and just what it means. And so, yay, Annapolis Middle School is going to be Title I next year.
okay.
Thanks for sharing that, Jess.
What's the lady that's in charge of the latest start times? She wrote an article about the latest start times.
Lisa Van Buster?
Daylight saving time.
Yes, Lisa
Right.
Van Buster. Yes,
Okay.
chapter leader.
Did anybody see her? Did you see her article that she wrote about the daylight saving time?
I did see the article, and I know that AACPS itself had advocated to the Maryland legislature to not support the return to support more return to standard time, not daylight saving time.
Okay, but are they going to go to daylight saving time next year or what? Anybody know?
No, it's still up, much is still up in the air. It was passed by the federal House of Representatives, but has not, to my knowledge, been addressed in the Senate yet. So please write your senators and let them know, and write your Maryland delegation and let them know that great as this may seem to, when on a very small perspective, read Lisa Van Buskirk's article on the detriments to starting school in the dark.
So what is our stance on it? What is the Annapolis Education Commission? What do we believe about that?
I mean, this is a federal decision, right?
It's a federal proposal, a proposed bill.
But it's, mhm,
Well,
but
but
it's for everybody.
I would say
Mhm.
everybody read, we can disseminate the Start School Later chapter's perspective on this, and their research. I think everybody on this commission should read that so that we have a unified we have informed perspectives, and we can perhaps take a stance.
Do we have I don't quite understand what would be the advantage or the disadvantage to going to daylight saving time. Can someone explain that to me? I don't know.
I can't encapsulate all the pros and cons at this.
Actually, most scientists have recommended that we go to standard time, not daylight savings time, because daylight savings time is it goes against our natural circadian rhythms and the body's functions. And the majority of the science out there says that if we went to full year daylight savings times, it would be a disaster on the scientific body level. But the reason that people want to go to full-time daylight savings time is because you get earlier or longer, more sunlight every day, more days of the year, even though you might start later in certain parts of the year. In the end, it's more sunlight. But as much as I hate the time change, I don't think that going to my personal opinion is that going to daylight saving, I would rather go to standard myself, because science says that's what we should do. Because
we just got approved a later start time, right? The school is going to start in September on later start time. Am I correct?
Right. But those two issues are pretty separate, right? One is a thing that's happening at the congressional level and maybe at the state level. And the other thing is an Anne Arundel County's public school system decision. So the Anne Arundel County,
So Anne Arundel County Public Schools is going to do later start time. Do we know the time for elementary, middle, and high school for Anne Arundel County? Do we know those times?
Yes, elementary schools will start between 8 and 9 a.m. The majority of them will start at 8 a.m. There are a few that will start at 9 a.m. And all middle schools will start at 9:15 a.m. and get out at 3:55 p.m. And all high schools will start at 8:30 a.m. and get out at 3:18 a.m. And for the special schools like Mary Moss, Central Special, etc., they will start at 9:15. A couple of them start at 8:30 or 8, which I think that is a huge bonus that really hasn't been talked about.
Right.
Because a lot of the special schools, which are kids who need the most support and need the most support, not only academically, but in every sort of way, have been starting at some of the earliest start times. So making those schools start later can only be beneficial for those kids.
Right. With long bus rides also to these centralized places. I mean, Phoenix Academy draws from a very large geographic distances and things. So
I mean,
so
the
if high schools
kids get out,
high schools
by like 1 o'clock in my neighborhood during the day. So, and they're at school early.
Okay, so high school starts at 8:30, and what time does it end?
3:18.
What time?
3:18.
3:18. Okay.
Here, I'll show you. I don't know if I can. Can I share? These are the hours, Odessa. Can you see the screen? So those are for the
Oh,
special.
okay.
All of the high schools are 8:30 to 3:18. All of the
Uh-huh.
middle schools are 9:15 to 3:55. And all of the Annapolis cluster elementary schools, which are the ones highlighted in yellow, start at 8 a.m. and end at 2:25 p.m. Except
Oh,
for
okay, so what,
this, and I don't know, I don't know if theirs is on here. They might be, right, they are, they're down at the bottom. Marnock Annapolis starts at 8:30 and gets out at 3:30.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm.
Any other new business?
I just want to
Okay.
make a generalized thing. We were talking earlier about volunteers for athletics. I don't know how we get the word out, but in general, volunteerism at the school level on all levels has really dropped since we've all come back to school. And if there's anything we can do, or the city can do, or anyone can do to publicize, I know there's still a lot of concern about, going back in and everything. I am probably one of the most cautious COVID people in the world. But I can tell you that I wear my mask when I go into school, and it's a great opportunity to be in the schools and to see what's going on. When I walk into Annapolis Middle School, the majority of the kids are still wearing their masks. So if you're worried about COVID, you can, the kids are wearing their masks, and it's a big school, and it's, I have always felt safe, as COVID cautious as I am, but please spread the word that the schools are desperate for volunteers. We have our Dragon store, Dragon Den at Annapolis Middle for an hour a day, every day. The kids get to use the dollars that they earn, the PBS dollars that they earn, and we are desperate for volunteers for that. I know at the elementary school level, we're desperate for volunteers for clubs and that type of thing. So when you hear people talking about, well, how do we help our kids? Volunteer in the schools, please volunteer in the schools. Volunteers are back. And if you don't want to go into the schools, there's plenty of ways to volunteer outside of the schools. So it's not just in the schools. And I know like Kenny's program, and I know Darius Stanton's program needs volunteers. He's been bringing adults in, or dads and older gentlemen, various adults into Annapolis High School to be there during Panther Hour and to help. If you know people who are, wondering how to help our kids, volunteering in our schools is a really big way. Also, substitute. Right. We are all desperate for substitute teachers, especially in the Annapolis cluster.
Yeah, and we always need people for like mock interviews and other things they do at the high school. So if you have a talent, they can probably use it.
Do we know if programs like the STAIR program has restarted? Because I know most of the volunteers, at least at Georgetown East, most of the volunteers for that were, retirees who are probably a little bit more cautious about being out and about. So I wondered, are we aware of if those programs have been able to resume? The STAIR program is a program for second graders that helps to focus on their reading. So it basically matches up a student with an adult volunteer who comes in at Georgetown East. I think they came in Tuesdays and Thursdays after school and worked with each kid for a couple of hours. And then at the end of the at the end of the year, they had a big party and they would celebrate the kids. And it was a great program, and it really helped to push kids who, don't necessarily have a parent who has the time to sit down and read with them every night. It really helped to encourage those kids and push them forward in reading levels. And I was wondering if that was one of the programs that has been able to resume now that we're allowed to have volunteers in schools again.
Is that the reason why? Because Grace and I volunteered to work with that program, but then we got an email saying that the person who was in charge of the program, I think she resigned. And I guess that they were waiting to fill that position. And I haven't heard anything else. So
she did. She's the one who took over she and her husband bought Watermark. So I think she resigned because she and her husband bought Watermark. So I don't know the answer. I can ask, but actually, Laura, what you said reminded me, I have another new business. Just to bring up, speaking of reading for children. Wait, where did it go? Here it is. This is the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library for Annapolis, 21401 and 21403. This is really for children of 0 to 4 years of age. But because a lot of the programs for 0 to 4 years of age are not running right now, we need to try to get it out through siblings of elementary school kids. So this is a program that the Dolly Parton Imagination Library gives books to children 0 to 4 years. When parents sign up, they just get sent on a regular basis, and it's basically so that kids can grow their own library and have books to read at home. I will send this to you, India, if we can send it out to everybody. I would really appreciate it. If you're looking at this right now and you want to take a picture or scan that QR code, you can do that. And I'll put it on our Facebook page as well. But this is a fantastic program to really start reading for our 0 to 4 up until they turn 5 years old kids. So.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks, Jess.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's terrific.
Okay, are there any objections to adjourning the meeting? Great. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.